Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's truly appreciated. Thank you to everyone who joined the first kickoff live that took place yesterday. Those will be happening every Wednesday from now on, either at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but definitely one of those two times. Appreciated for everyone who did tune in, and yeah, keep the comments coming, keep the support, and obviously I'll keep trying to crank out and churn out the content. Obviously, for all the new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. I'm sure by now you kind of got a brief idea of how the channel works, so yeah, big ups to you, big ups to everyone, and a couple things to talk about for the next couple days. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first bit of news has to be the fact that Josh Taylor versus Jack Caroll, the rematch, has been postponed from the 27th of April and is now going to be taking place on the 25th of May instead. This is due to Josh Taylor supposedly suffering an eye injury of some sorts. They haven't said it was a cut or anything like that, but no telling what that could be. Maybe a scratched cornea or something along those lines. So it's only been pushed back a month, but it's not looking good for Josh Taylor. I mean, that's maybe the fourth injury that he's had in the last 4 years, resulting in fights getting pushed back. And funny enough, the injuries always seem to be when he's facing Jack Caroll. He had the foot injury the first time around, before they had to reschedule the first fight. Then when the rematch was supposed to happen, he had another foot injury. He's now got the eye injury. I'm sure there was another one in there somewhere. It looks like his body's starting to break down on him. Now look, he might be in pretty good shape, and maybe it is just a surface level injury for the eye, which would ultimately mean that it shouldn't cause too much disruption to the preparations. But yeah, it's not really a good sign. It's not a good omen. I'm just keen to see kind of how that works itself out moving forward. Now, I believe the undercard for that fight, which initially was supposed to be a next gen card in itself, has now actually been moved from that First Direct Arena in Leeds over to I think it's like a much smaller venue in Liverpool. I can't remember the name of it. But Peter McGrail and Jericho O'Quinn will obviously have their rematch, and whereas that was going to be on the undercard initially, now that's gone back to main event status as it was initially when they was doing the schedule. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that fight, but at least it's only getting pushed back 1 month. And now I guess what will be more interesting is what the new undercard for that fight will be. Will they throw a couple of heavy hitters on there as a bit of an apology, or will it maybe be a bit more of a thrown together undercard? Have they already got a scheduled fight date? And when sometimes they always have their fights already pre-planned. Maybe they've already had a bunch of those fights already set, and this is now just gonna be the headliner for a card that they was already planning. Not sure. Either way, I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. But yeah, unfortunate for Josh Taylor. Obviously also unfortunate for Jack Caroll. He's got to be in camp for an extra month, but hopefully that makes for an even better fight. We'll wait and see. So Dillon White today has done his first full-length interview again with Kugan Cassius. So they haven't had one of those for well over a year at this point, it feels like. Like a 35-minute, 40-minute one. He wouldn't go into too much information about obviously what went on with his case, but he did divulge some info which was interesting. I always thought he had a Portuguese boxing license, but maybe he had a congruent one which ran alongside another. He said that he's been with the Texas Boxing Commission for about the last 4 to 5 years. Obviously he hasn't lived in the UK, I believe, since about 2018, 2019, something like that. Similarly, around the time when he sort of left Mark Tibbs, when he was in Portugal for the majority of his camps. So I'm not sure how he ended up with a Texas license when he was living in Portugal, but that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. Maybe, I mean, to be honest, I remember when he fought on the undercard, that top rank undercard against what was the guy's name, Trevor Mann, I think it was. Maybe at that point he went and got himself an international license there. Not sure. I remember there was that period of time when he did go over to the States and was like, you know, talking to different promoters and seeing if there was any good deals for him over in that region of the world. Maybe in that time he might have applied for a license then, I'm not sure. But yeah, so we found that out. Obviously he said that he wants to thank everyone that's, you know, basically stuck by him, and, you know, the people that obviously was quick to jump out the window. He hopes that this is vindication. He says, you know, it's draining on him mentally when you know you're innocent, but you just can't, and you know you got people slagging you off, throwing your name through the mud, and you haven't done anything wrong, but stayed steadfast, which is kind of what I was saying the other day. I in these situations, as much as sometimes you just want to jump out the window and say whatever, I've been very much, I'm all about let the process play out now, and then I'll say what I've got to say once a conclusion happens. I feel like, you know, in a lot of different environments, I think that people deserve benefit of the doubt, or, you know, it's innocent until proven guilty. And sometimes, obviously, as we know, adverse findings or whatever aren't immediate, you know, they're not immediately guilt inducing. You know, they don't automatically make you guilty, and then it's up to you to then prove your innocence there. Whereas it's funny because in law, it's up to a jury, or it's up to the other lawyer to prove your guilt, whereas here it's up to you to prove your innocence, which is fine. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at things, and that's how I see it. Also, he said he's gonna be fighting this Sunday for St. Patrick's Day, but after that he said if he can, he'd like to get 3 or 4 fights in this year. Doesn't even care about the level of opposition, he just wants to kind of get the activity. So he's clearly watched, you know, Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua, and basically said, okay, well look, the more active you are, the better things get for you. So hopefully he can get a couple more maybe not even gimme fights, but, you know, nothing fights, not really taking big money fights, and just, you know, round out towards the end of the year. Maybe get 2 or 3 fights now, and then you could possibly do a bigger fight in, you know, Saudi or something at the end of the year. I think that would work out. He's also saying, obviously, that, you know, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, you know, Tyson Fury, you know, he goes points with people, Joshua knocks people out. That's just how it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one is going to take over the other, which, yes, okay, in some aspects that is correct. But yeah, when we talk about, you know, patterns and everything, and I do also remember he said, you know, he'd also love to fight Francis Ngannou. I've said that on the live the other day, and I'd actually forgotten that him and Francis Ngannou filmed that the online face-off to fight each other that time, I think with Eddie Hearn in the middle, but Dana White vetoed it quite abruptly. But he said, yeah, I would love to fight Ngannou. I was the one that called him out years ago, which is true. As I said on the live yesterday, I'd love to see Dillon finally, you know, go to bat with Deontay Wilder. The two of them, obviously, they've got a beef and a history that has lasted for nearly 10 years now. It's about time we kind of settle that. But I'd love him to face Ngannou the same way I'd be happy if Chisora was Ngannou's comeback fight, quote unquote, or if Chisora got a Deontay Wilder fight as a comeback, because that was also a fight that was supposed to happen about 6 or 7 years ago and never took place. So all of these, like, let's just wrap up all of these chapters, all of these sagas, and kind of, you know, close those books and get ready to open new ones. That's kind of how I see it. But I'm happy that Dillon's back, and I will be watching the fight on Sunday, provided I find out where it's actually being streamed, because it's not on DAZN, it won't be on Sky. Hopefully there'll probably be like a YouTube channel or something that will be sharing it. So yeah, look forward to that. And I guess last but not least, because we are in the era of fraud right about now, and there's going to be a lot of my videos and stuff where I'm going to be addressing and breaking down certain things. I want you guys to actually have a look at this little clip here, and then we'll talk about the rest of it afterwards.
But I believe, from my own experience as being on this game, on top of it since 2015, a couple of blips along the way, but I don't think I think the jab of mine, I'm a lot quicker than him, yeah? I've got better movement than him, I'm tougher than him, and so on and so forth.
Has he got anything on you, Usyk, or not?
Has he got anything on me? Not that I can think of. Listen, if he was a cruiserweight, then he might have the agility to move and bend a little bit better, but considering he's put on 25-30 pounds since then, one, I've never met a heavyweight who's ever been as quick as me, and two, he doesn't come from that type of background where he can outspeed me or outmaneuver me. I've said it time and time again, yeah? I've got that American style with the European conditioning. I've never met a European man with his hands up round his face, moving his head a little bit like a European amateur, who can beat me. Say no more. I look at Usyk, he's a stiff white man who moves his head a little bit and moves his feet. That's how I look at him. I've never met a stiff white man who could ever outbox me, ever in my life. Amateur, pro, sparring, anything. Ever. And I don't think Usyk's that man either. Well, I actually know he's not.
Okay, so look, there's no surprise in Tyson Fury calling Anthony Joshua, a plodder and whatnot, hits hard, etc. But that's cool. We expected that sort of information, that sort of thing to come from him. But when you say that, that he's not he's not as fast as you, he's not as quick as you, how is it that he's always managing to land and hit the target of his opponents and you're not? I mean, part of that has to be speed, right? It's not all timing, because it's not like, oh, he's waiting for someone to throw something and then he comes and times it. A lot of the time he's beating people to the punch. So there's got to be speed there somewhere. However, that's not even the part I'm interested in, because them two are always gonna, throw insults at each other. The rivalry is there, it makes sense, no problem. I'm more interested in this stiff white man comment that he made about Alexander Usyk. This European, this stiff style, a little bit of head movement, and that he's got this American style with European conditioning or something along those lines. And I'm listening to all of this, and I'm just like, really? So if Alexander Usyk is this stiff European style that is just, really so easy to kind of predict and comprehend, how come that he's never officially been knocked down as a pro and suffered the count, but you have? You being so much of a bigger force, is so elusive, this gazelle like speed that you have, this movement, this awkward angles and all of that stuff, but yet you've been knocked down by numerous guys, most of which are actually non-punchers. But this guy who's got this stiff, come forward, upright style with a little bit of head movement has never hit the canvas in official capacity as a pro yet. It baffles me as to how this guy says as much as he says and manages to get away with it, and people still listen to it and take it in. Furthermore, let's talk about this whole stiff white man comment. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm not white. I'm not here to take up for any comments there, and obviously both of them are white people, so I guess you mention it however you mention. But the one thing that I would say with regards to that is, apart from Devin Haney, who thus far I think is the only one that's ever got away with it, anytime that someone mentions that no stiff white man can beat me, I'll never let a white boy beat me, or no white boy or no white man can beat me, all of these guys, they end up losing the fight 9 times out of 10. Like I said, I think Devin Haney is the only one that ain't really managed to get through that, that's had to sort of suffer that indignity as of yet. And Tyson Fury being this big historian that he supposedly is, I'm sure you would know that those words don't usually end well for somebody. But I mean, like I said, all the any of my white subscribers, like, you guys can all chime down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on that. That's white on white crime. That's got nothing to do with me. But it's just weird. Even when he's like, oh, I've got this American style. Well, this American style has seen you dropped on numerous occasions. Like, you got dropped twice by Deontay Wilder with this American style, and you got dropped once by Francis Ngannou, who had never had a professional boxing match before. This same American style had you moving mad cautious and unsure of yourself in the first round against Dillon White when you decided to come out southpaw. And from all intents and purposes, this American style had you labouring to a 10th round mercy stoppage against Derek Chisora. I don't really understand where the sense and the rhyme and the reason comes from when Tyson Fury speaks at certain times. Now look, is the fight against him and Usyk going to be a cakewalk? No, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for either person, because there's clear deficiencies and advantages that both guys do have that the other one's going to have to combat, especially in the early rounds. But to make them kind of statements, especially when every time you fight, bar maybe 3 or 4 performances, you labor or you do just about enough to get through. Like, you might win the rounds unanimously, but you never look spectacular in any fights. So how is it that, you're the greatest, this, that and the other, like, oh, I'm the number one, and all of that stuff, when you look at the performances, they never really tell that story. And then all we ever get is excuses and, oh, well, he wasn't motivated for this one. This is just, he raises his game to the level of his opposition. Well, the last time he did that was in, 2021? Was it 21 again? No, was it 2020 against Deontay Wilder? That's like the last time that we've seen him raise his game and raise his level to that high standard. Outside of that, everything else is always a hard slog. It's always a hard night out, or he didn't perform to his best ability. Well, maybe that's just his best ability. And maybe all this talking is just mad projection, just trying to either keep the illusion going, or maybe he's trying to psych himself out, because the truth is, I think people realize now, or at least the majority of people realize now, he's not as good as people believed him to be. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's probably one of those things, you look at him from the outside and think he's not really that special, but it's a lot different when you're actually inside the ring fighting him. I know there are some people like that. Outside they don't really look spectacular, but you get in the ring and you realize it's a whole different story. Maybe it's that, but that does not take away from the fact that a lot of his comments now just sound more like the ramblings of a desperate man. That's how it looks to me. And I will leave it there, and I'll let you guys talk in the comments amongst yourselves, and you can let me know if you think the same way. Obviously, we did the live yesterday, we spoke a lot about it. There's probably going to be more content coming out in and around this sort of stuff moving forward. But with that being said, I will leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, appreciate it. Look out for basis picks tomorrow, look out for another video on Saturday, weekend wrap Sunday. I might have to move weekend wrap to Monday morning, because I probably will want to speak about the Dillon White fight in there, but we'll see how we get on. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Think about becoming a member as well, and get more members only content on the channel. I'm definitely thinking about that moving forward. But without further ado, thank you. It's Hardcore Casual out.